Anthony Richardson just went from franchise quarterback to trade candidate almost overnight, and the team that believed in him is already moving on. But here's the real question. What did the Indianapolis Colts see that made them give up so fast, and why are the Minnesota Vikings ready to take that same risk right now? The moment the Colts gave Richardson permission to seek a trade, it told you everything. Teams do not make that move unless things behind the scenes are already broken. This was not a small adjustment or a temporary decision, and this was a full reset. At the same time, the Colts placed the transition tag on Daniel Jones, signaling a complete shift in direction. They are no longer betting on potential. They are choosing stability, structure, and control. That shift is what makes this situation so intense. Just a short time ago, Richardson was the future of the franchise. He was the centerpiece. Everything was supposed to be built around his unique skill set. Now he's being pushed out, and that kind of turnaround does not happen without serious concern inside the organization. It means the belief is gone, at least for now. Richardson entered the league with one of the highest ceilings we have seen in years. His size, speed, and arm strength made him a rare athlete at quarterback. When he played well, defenses had no answers. He could escape pressure, break runs wide open, and launch deep throws that changed games instantly. In those moments, he looked like a player who could take over the league. But the problem was never the flashes. The problem was everything in between. There were games where he looked unstoppable, followed by games where the offense completely stalled. Missed throws, slow reads, and inconsistency became a pattern. In the NFL, that pattern is dangerous. Teams need reliability. They need execution every single week, not just highlights. As those struggles continued, pressure started building. Coaches needed results. The front office needed answers. The locker room needed confidence. When a quarterback cannot provide that consistently, doubts grow quickly. That is exactly what happened in Indianapolis. The team reached a point where they decided they could not wait any longer. Every week became a test, and instead of clear progress, the same issues kept showing up. That is when belief starts to fade inside an organization. That is why the move toward Daniel Jones matters so much. It shows the Indianapolis Colts are choosing a different identity. They want a quarterback who can manage the game, limit mistakes, and keep the offense steady. That is the opposite of what Richardson represents right now. He is not safe. He is explosive, but unpredictable. And not every team is willing to live with that. Stability has become more valuable to them than potential. The Minnesota Vikings are one of the teams that might be willing. Their situation is completely different. They are not just looking for control. They are looking for upside. They are looking for a player who can create something out of nothing. Richardson fits that perfectly. In the right system, his strengths could finally be used the way they were meant to be used. If that happens, the same traits that cause concern in Indianapolis could become the exact reason he succeeds in Minnesota. That is the key point in this entire story. Richardson's biggest issue has not been talent. It has been fit. If you place him in a system that tries to force him into a traditional pocket style, you limit everything that makes him special. But if you build around his mobility, his arm strength, and his ability to extend plays, then everything changes. That is why this potential move is so important. If the Vikings land him for a late-round pick, the risk is extremely low, but the reward could be massive. This is the kind of move that can reshape a franchise if it works. It is a gamble, but a smart one. There is also a mental side to this that cannot be ignored. Being pushed out this early in your career hits hard. It affects confidence. It changes how a player approaches the game. Some players never recover from that kind of moment. Others use it as fuel and come back stronger. Richardson is now at that exact point. He has to decide how he is going to respond. He can treat this as rejection, or he can treat it as a second chance. That mindset will define what happens next, because physically, he has everything needed to succeed. But mentally, this is where his career will be decided. Timing also plays a huge role here. The NFL does not wait. Teams expect production immediately. If they do not see it, they move on quickly. Richardson is still early in his career, but he is already facing a turning point. That shows how fast things change in this league. The Colts made their decision based on what they have seen so far. They believe they need something different to move forward. Now another team has the chance to take that same player and build something new. That is what makes the situation so fascinating. If Richardson lands in Minnesota and starts improving quickly, the entire narrative flips. Suddenly, the Colts will be questioned. People will ask why they gave up so early, why they did not build the right system around him, why they chose safety over potential. But if Richardson struggles again, then the Colts will look like they made the right call. That is how thin the line is in the NFL. One season can completely change how a player is viewed. Right now, Richardson is standing right on that line. This is no longer about potential or hype. This is about proving he can deliver consistently at the highest level. Everything comes down to execution now. Decision-making has to improve. Accuracy has to improve. The ability to read defenses has to improve. Those are the things that separate great quarterbacks from the rest. Talent alone is not enough anymore. The margin for error at this level is almost zero, and every mistake shows up immediately on the field and on the scoreboard. Defenses are faster, smarter, and more prepared than anything he faced before, and they will keep attacking the same weaknesses until he proves he can beat them. If the Minnesota Vikings go through with this move, they are betting that they can develop him into that kind of player. They are betting that with the right coaching and the right system, his weaknesses can be fixed and his strengths can take over. That is not easy, but when it works, it creates something special. It requires patience, discipline, and a clear plan that does not change after one bad game. It also requires trust from both sides because development only works when the player fully buys in. This situation is bigger than just a trade. It is about how teams evaluate talent and how quickly things can change in the NFL. It is about what happens when potential meets pressure and expectations are not met fast enough. It also shows how different organizations see the same player in completely different ways. One team sees risk, another sees opportunity, and that difference can define careers. Right now, Anthony Richardson is at the center of all of it. His next move will shape the rest of his career. If he gets it right, he could become one of the most exciting quarterbacks in the league. If he gets it wrong, he risks becoming another player people talk about as wasted potential. Every snap, every decision, and every game from this point forward will carry more weight than ever before. There is no middle ground anymore. No slow rebuild, no extra time. Just one opportunity to prove that the belief in him was not misplaced. The Indianapolis Colts have already made their decision. Now it is Richardson's turn to respond, and how he answers will decide everything.